If you haven't become an expert using the numbered list tool, you need to do that first before we really get into building our outlines for our research papers. So that's what I'm starting off with. Take a look at this numbered list tool, click the little drop down arrow, and I always like to use this one here that has Roman numerals and letters and then numbers again. It's just easier for me to differentiate the different types of, sorry, my cats are running around, different types of information that I'm building levels for, building hierarchies for. So I click this and I get a little bullet point, and that bullet point is a Roman numeral number 1. And Roman numeral number 1 is generally going to be our introduction. And Roman numeral number 2 is going to be our perspective number 1, whatever you're deciding to start with the perspective. So if you're doing the death penalty, maybe this is the reasons why we should have the death penalty, or reasons why we shouldn't have the death penalty. And then what you're going to do is within these larger main topics, so main ideas, we're going to press return, and then we're going to create subtopics of those ideas. So subtopic 1, subtopic 2. And how I did that was I pressed enter, and then I pressed the tab button. Tab moves bullet points to the right. So I can keep pressing tab and keep moving that bullet point to the right. Or I can hold shift tab and move that bullet point to the left. So for example, I created bullet point D here, but I don't want this to be bullet point D anymore. I want this to be my next Roman numeral. So I hit shift tab, and now it becomes Roman numeral 3, and this becomes perspective number 2. And then you can get rid of bullet points and everything stays nice and organized, and just really, really visually appealing, visually easy to see where your information is going, what you're doing with it. So within these different subtopics, ideally what's going to happen is this is going to be the section of our paper, the Roman numeral, and then each one of these subtopics, these bullet point letters, are going to become the paragraph. So paragraph 1 is probably going to be an introduction to this section. And paragraph 2 is going to be your first argument supporting that idea. And then for each one of these individual paragraphs, we can keep on going, but I'm going to start creating details and supporting facts that can back up these ideas in my paragraphs. So instead of leaving this as bullet point C, I press tab and move it over. And now I have support number 1 and support number 2 for this one paragraph. And then I can go start my next paragraph, paragraph 3, so on and so forth. So basically, before I even start, I know exactly what all of my paragraphs are going to be about. There's no question as to where do I go next? What do I write about next, Mr. Restad? It's all here. It's all organized for you if you do these outlines correctly. But instead of having to build these from scratch, what you can do is take a look at Google Classroom and open up my outline template, and it will look something like this. So this is just generally, it's not perfect because everyone's outline is going to be slightly different since you're arguing and making supports for different things. You'll see all of your 4 sections of your paper in a general outline. We're going to skip introductions right now. We're going to start with number 2 and number 3. And why we start here is because I always find it so much easier to begin by organizing the middle of my paper. It's really hard to introduce my paper when I don't know exactly what I've written about. Because a lot of times we introduce something and then we end up writing about something slightly different and then having to go back and redo our introduction anyway. So I'd rather write about the points that I have, build the body of my paper first, and then go back and do my introduction, my personal method. So open this up, and then using, if you have it, using your chart, your sticky note chart, each one of your sticky notes, in theory, should become one of the arguments for each perspective. So maybe blue is my opposing perspectives and pink is my aligning perspectives. I would just go down the list and come up with the different details, filling this in. So section A is going to be about standardized testing being good. Argument number 1 is going to be that all students need to learn the same concepts. It's just what people argue, not necessarily saying I support this. And then I would take a look at my note chart after I have all of my arguments filled in. And I would find notes and details that I could use to drop in and support these ideas and these concepts. And when I drop in a note from my note chart, I'm going to be very careful to make sure I also grab the in-text citation. This is why we do this. And so as I'm citing information, as I'm dropping in quotations, I make sure that I know where it's coming from. So hopefully by the time I've finished up everything, I don't need to look at my note chart again. There's no question as to where this piece of information came from because it's already in my outline. And then I can make sure all of my outline is 12-point font and double spaced by, again, pressing Control A, selects everything, then you can adjust from there. So take a look at my sample outline. It's under Google Classroom. Take a look at the outline sample, and you will see from start to finish what I expect yours to look like. And you will notice, if you take a look at my 2 and 3, that I have introductions, I have arguments, and usually I think I have 3 arguments. Well, this one only has 2 arguments, but each one of those arguments is pretty darn well supported. Here's argument 1, students should generally know things. I've even split that argument up into 2 smaller paragraphs that I'm going to be writing, and each one of those paragraphs is backed up by 2 key points that I want to make sure that I mention in my writing, with the appropriate citation listed behind them. So your goal, open up this template, make a copy, and start filling out, updating parts number 2 and parts number 3 based on your argument. If you have questions, holler. Good luck.